Welcome. You're tuned into Life is a Sacred Journey. Every week, we bring a new perspective to aging and caregiving. Here is your host, Michele Pope.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you in the virtual neighborhood of Life is a Sacred Journey. I am your host, Michele Pope, and it is a tremendous honor and privilege to be with you this morning. Every Friday morning at 8 a.m. here in the virtual neighborhood of Life is a Sacred Journey, we gather, we bring authors, and it's been a long 2023. We've brought authors, we've caregivers, and other folks that are living and helping and supporting those who are caring for others that are living with chronic illnesses, specifically people living and aging with dementia and other forms of mental health. And today we decided to do something a little different. We realized I think many months and maybe even a year ago when we were contemplating 2023, and now we're contemplating 2024. Good morning, Sister T. I hope your mom is doing better this morning. I just happened to look down on my desk and I have a Post-it note with your name on it, so I wanted to say that. But moving into 2024, we want to take the whole idea of care partnering, caregiving out of just one realm of the life process. So we've been focusing primarily because of what we do here at Life is a Sacred Journey, as well at Alzheimer's Services of the East Bay, is our elders. But today we're going to be talking about pediatric. So if you are a first-time parent, grandparent, mom, dad, guardian, pull up a pad of paper, get a pen, and let's take some notes as I admit our guest for today. I'm going to be giving you a little bit of her background. So her name is Maureen Michele Petersen, and she is a incredible, I've been reading up on her, and as a person who raised children with allergies, because I pass them on because I have them, so my kids have them, and an immunologist. She's also a life coach, and she's walked with, and so I always say walk with instead of, because we don't tell people what to do, really. We think we do, but we don't. But when we walk beside people, and what I was looking and seeing, and I love the title of her book, and I don't have it yet, but I ordered it, Reclaiming Life. So here's a little photo of it that I took, Reclaiming Life, and a guide for parents of chronically ill children, and Maureen Michele, MD. So this is the thing I want you to do this morning, my friends out there, is when you hear some of these things, yes, Maureen's experience is in pediatrics, but caregiving for someone in experiencing a chronic illness, it is not an ageist thing. It is a thing that we all, I mean, no matter what it is. I have a friend right now, her husband has an autoimmune, that's a chronic illness, and she's dealing and challenging. Last night I was on the phone with her for a couple of hours because she just needed to dump her experience, Maureen, with the medical. And I'm not putting the medical industry down, but in this particular scenario, she's not feeling like she's being seen. And so all of those things are what you're talking about. Also, how to have that partnership, how to engage in that partnership with your pediatrician. So I'm a first-time grandmother, three-time parent. So your field means a great deal to me, and even for those parents out there who are trying to understand how to navigate this 21st century parenting paradigm that's a little strange to me. But I'll say that right out loud. I will. And I'm not putting anybody down. I'm not judging anything. It's just that, Maureen, I come from an environment where you kind of morph with the kid, right? You don't have all this pre-planned perceptions on how the child is going to behave at a certain moment, space, and time. But I want to welcome you to Life is a Sacred Journey. I think your topic is timely. And as I opened by saying, I think that what you're talking about crosses those lines of care partnering and caregiving. So welcome. Yay.
No, I am so excited to be here. And, I love what you said about how this topic isn't just for parents, that it's translatable to almost anyone. And I just, to start off, have a very quick story to
Yeah,
share
please.
with your
No,
audience.
yeah.
Yeah, that I have a very good friend who is not married, does not have children, but knew when I wrote my book that he was going to have to be one of the readers of my book because his friendship means the world to me. So he kind of dragged his feet because thought, I'm not only not a dad, but I don't have a kid who's sick. So this book is not going to mean much to me.
Mhm.
Well, he read it out of his obligation for our friendship and called me afterwards and said, Maureen, I have to be honest with you. I thought this was not going to be relevant to me at all, and it absolutely was. I have recommended it to many of my friends because the lessons that you talk about
Yep.
apply to any challenges that we have in our lives. And the tips that you say, uh, that have to do with parenting, I can put that into play in my life, even though I'm not a parent.
No.
So I appreciate you highlighting that because it's absolutely true.
And I think, Maureen, if I may, I always, when I see the MD, I want to call you Dr. Maureen, but Maureen, I think that that's one of the challenges that we have in the medical field and in our humanity is that we fragmented everything based on, and which in some areas we need to, right? Because a little person has a different way of dealing with stress due to lack of life experiences and different things like that. Chronic illnesses impact their bodies because the organs are smaller and all of those kinds of things. But a human is a human,
Right.
and
Yeah.
and if we started to treat people as humans across their that's why we call this Life is a Sacred Journey. It's a no-brainer in my head that it's across the paradigm. And when you're looking at chronic illnesses, we now see that young people are what I call the little young people are impacted by these chronic illnesses in a way that it also creates stress for them that impacts the way they develop mentally, intellectually, and connectional. Am I making that up or is that true?
Oh no, it's very true because, and I'll use the example of advocating to highlight what you are saying.
Mhm.
So, a child with a chronic illness, their parent is going to have to be an advocate for them in the physician's office. The thing I teach parents now is that they're actually doing a great job of teaching their child from a very young age of how to advocate for themselves by honing that skill so that the child watches the parent do it in the doctor's office. But the thing, to come back to your point, that teaching that goes on in the doctor's office with learning about advocacy translates into just about every avenue in that child's life, through their adolescence and adulthood. Maybe it's school, maybe it's work. they will know how to have a voice for themselves by watching their parent do it and hone that skill. So yes, you're absolutely correct. There's lots of things where the medical office translates into life experiences and challenges that we face.
And in the life of a little person, the onset or the being even born with a a critical diagnosis and something that chronic diagnosis, does that change the parenting relationship? Are you working with the parent also in I'm trying, what am I, because I also see that even here, working with seniors with dementia, the care partner sometimes creates a codependent relationship that makes it difficult for the person to have their own sense of independence, even in their chronic illness status. Does that happen with little people as well?
Oh, absolutely. That one of the things that is super important for a parent who has a chronically ill child is to prioritize self-care. And what I mean by self-care is is not days at the spa, although that's wonderful, right? But it is being mindful, practicing just a few minutes of deep breathing to get yourself grounded. But it's also having goals and hobbies and a life outside of the worries and guilt and fear that go along with having a sick kid. Super important to prioritize all of those self-care things, because if we are not a whole person trying to take care of someone else, we're not going to do a good job. You know, we hear this all the time when
I
we
know.
fly on an airplane, right? What do the flight attendants tell us on an airplane? They say, put your oxygen mask on first before you're going to help somebody else. Well, in life, we need to do the same thing,
Mhm.
that having those hobbies and dreams and goals um, outside of caregiving fills our cup so that we can give care to somebody else at 100%, rather than being exhausted because we haven't had something to recharge ourselves
Mhm.
and only being able to really give 70% of ourselves to them. So it's super important. And yes, you know, the other thing too that I will say is that intense focus on the one person who's sick is not only unhealthy for the sick individual, whether they're a kid or an adult,
Right.
not only unhealthy for the caregiver, but it's unhealthy for the family, because then with other siblings in the household, they're not getting the attention or learning or teaching that they should be getting.
Yeah.
And they're feeling like they don't have a parent because that parent's focus is all on one individual. So all of those relationships absolutely can be impacted
Yeah.
either in a bad way, or we have the opportunity to impact those relationships in a very beautiful way. And
Mhm.
you know, siblings is an example of that,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
siblings have the opportunity to learn a lot about a particular diagnosis and about medical care and about health and nutrition and all of those things. But if we don't include them in the conversation, then we're allowing them to miss out on that opportunity to learn.
Yes, and to speak to their own grief, their own recognition of what this disease is doing for them in their environment. For a while, I worked with young children in trauma, and that was one of the therapies that we use, where they would be able to take, and we use plates, and we put them in bags, and they took hammers and, you know, whatever that
Yeah,
was, whether it was an abuser, many times it was a parent abuser, but that they could feel like they were defending themselves, or that they were, as you're saying, in control of
right.
because when your body is doing all kinds of weird things, or things are happening to you, you feel like you have no control.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you know, it having those opportunities for conversations about how are you feeling? What are your thoughts around this? For the child who's sick, and you know, you have to do that at a developmentally
of course.
appropriate way.
Yes.
But also doing it for the siblings, because and I'll tell my story of how I kind of
Yeah, I want it. Yeah.
became really passionate about all of this in a second. But siblings oftentimes have thoughts and emotions that, if they're not allowed to express them or have that outlet, that they can get very bottled up and can impact them down the road. And uh, those feelings and thoughts sometimes may sound weird to us as adults, um, but allowing them to express them and not judging their thoughts or emotions, but having a conversation about it is important. And an example of what I mean by kind of weird thoughts is, I'll use type 1 diabetes as an example, because you'll hear in a second that that is part of my family. But some kids, some siblings of type 1 diabetic kids feel very jealous because of their sibling having diabetes.
Mhm.
And to us as adults, we would think, well, that's ridiculous. Why are you jealous over something that is a diagnosis that can impact a ton of things in your life?
Yeah.
And but to that sibling, they're jealous because there's a lot of attention on the type 1 diabetic child. And but allowing that sibling to express that jealousy and talking about it and trying to figure out what it feels like to be jealous and label it and talk about how to process it is so important, and it's such a valuable gift
Yeah.
that that child has.
Yes. And you know, the other is the ability to, like you say, reclaim life.
Yeah,
It is not just for that moment, but it's down the road, when that experience is you taking it into your adulthood, your early adulthood, and you begin to have relationships with other people. How this time in your life is dealt with yourself, your family,
right.
it'll show up.
Yes.
I'm here to tell
Yep,
you, on the other end, it'll show up. And so
right.
I think it's important that those courageous, I call them courageous conversations. We use that in another part of my life. Is like, you got to have them, and turn them from being just courageous conversations because they feel weird when you have them, to just the natural way of being around illness, around death, around grief, around the natural parts of life. And as a pediatrician and a life coach, I thought that was fascinating. So speak to that, that you brought those two fields together, those two careers, sciences together,
Right.
to really helping people to say, here's the scientific impact, and then this is the human impact, and this is how you bring those formulas together so
Yeah.
that you can thrive, as you were saying, by setting goals, by
Yeah.
living into what I mean, the good and bad of this experience. So
Yeah.
tell us
And
about your
yeah.
experience.
And, just to like highlight what you just said, kind of summarize it,
Yeah.
is in life, we're faced constantly with challenges, and we really have two choices when we face a challenge. The choice of kind of crumpling up in a ball and allowing life to happen to us and pretending like it's going to go away, or we have the choice of turning that challenge into a gift and allow life to happen for us and learn and grow from it. And that is what I truly believe is the way to go in life to make it a full and complete life. So, my kind of story to highlight how that's important is, when I was growing up, I wanted two things out of this world. I wanted to be a mom and I wanted to be a doctor. And I was very fortunate and got to accomplish both of those dreams when I was in residency for pediatrics. My second born child, a daughter, was diagnosed with pediatric neuroblastoma, which is a type of pediatric cancer. She was 6 months old at the time, and I felt like my world was crashing in. I didn't know about the tools of coaching. I um, couldn't believe that my childhood dream was kind of going to be taken away from me. And I was very focused on her health care and going through surgery and chemo and the whole works. And um, I went to a very kind of dark place at the time. With time and friends, like things got better and she did great from all of her treatment. Um, then fast forward to when she was 12, um, I had the honor of being the physician to diagnose her with type 1 diabetes. And it I did this in a tiny school bathroom, thinking she had a urinary tract infection, but indeed it was diabetes. And in that moment, felt like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is happening again. And felt like again my world was crashing in. Um, I knew this time, though, that I didn't want to go back to this place that I was in years earlier when she had cancer. So I was very proactive in trying to figure out how to not only take care of her, but take care of myself because I knew diabetes was not going away and was really going to have to figure out how to manage all of this. I read books and listened to podcasts and um, became a believer in coaching and the coaching tools. Did not become a certified coach at the time. A couple years later, I had a leadership position at our hospital and needed to mentor program directors and residents and fellows, other physicians. So decided to become a certified life coach to help with my mentorship skills. I quickly, though, realized how, when I became a coach, those tools were helping families that I was taking care of in clinic. And it goes back to what you were talking about this kind of merge of, science and support and coaching. And I understood how important it is to have both this incredible ability to take care of somebody from a scientific aspect, but then also taking care of someone in a more intimate way and teaching them how to have a journey through life that's a little bit easier than the one I went through and prevent them from going to these dark places. Like, what an honor that is. And so now I use my experience of what I went through as a mom and my experience that I've had as a physician to be able to teach families about advocacy and about courage and about how to organize their lives, all the things. And it's really goes back to what I said before I started this story, that it's making the intent of turning a challenge into a real gift. Sometimes it's really hard in the moment, but having that belief that you can do it in some way, shape, or form can really provide great hope to individuals when they're in the thick of it.
Yeah. And I wrote down because I love these words. I think words are also very directional and empowering. That's why I think your Reclaiming Life is just a wonderful title. But courage and turning a challenge into a gift, those kinds of the deep breathing that you talked about
Yeah.
earlier, advocacy, when you start to use and bring those words into your vocabulary and into the scenario in which you're living, it flips the brain. Also, the chemistry of the brain, mindfulness is proven to do that, you guys. I hate to tell you. It changes the chemistry. You begin to come out of that dark place. It doesn't mean that you'll never experience that darkness again. On the contrary, you will experience it again. But then you have the mechanisms and the tools to
Yeah.
switch in and out of it. So when you were thinking about your book, what was the goal when you said, okay, I'm going to sit down and put this to paper?
Well, it's funny that you asked that because the intent of the book initially was to be a historical reference for my kids, because my kids would always come to me and say, like, Mom, tell us a story about when Kylie had cancer. Tell us a story of when you diagnosed Kylie with diabetes. And I realized, though, when I sat down to write the book, that the stories that I had through this experience of life can really help other individuals. And so the book then morphed into a tool for teaching. And each chapter of the book has a different topic. Like, there's a chapter on fear and a chapter on overwhelm. And in that chapter, there's a story of my daughter when she had cancer, a story when she had diabetes, a story of a patient that I took care of in clinic, and then practical tips that people can implement in their lives on the day that they read the book. The I will tell you, though, that and it goes back to what you were saying about changing the brain and what you're focusing on. The other big tool that I often teach about is journaling and how powerful journaling can be. And but what I didn't realize was, I thought when I was going to write this book, it was going to take me a weekend, because these stories were like, in my mind, I lived them. This is a piece of cake to write all this down. What I didn't realize was how emotionally draining it was to really sit down and describe in great detail what happened during each of these experiences in order for the reader to understand what I was going through in the moment. So it took me much longer. But I tell you, on the day that I wrote the very last sentence of the book, I shut my laptop and I just cried because I knew how emotionally healing it was to actually do this project and to see it from start to finish was great, but to really have all of that healing that goes on, which I know from doing all of this work that it's journaling that is really such a powerful tool to bring closure to things in our lives. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do that.
I think I agree with you so much. Everything that you've said this morning resonates with me. And the journaling, I was just saying yesterday in a meeting, I don't see it here. I might have moved it. Oh no, here it is. Um, so I have two journals. I have a work journal and I have one for my private, personal, intimate feelings. And this one is the work one. So every thought that I've had about every meeting, and they're not notes. There's a difference, friends. This is not notes. This is just my feelings about maybe a meeting that I attended, something that triggered something in me that I was like, okay, Michele, you need to do some work in that area because my whole goal in life is not to be triggered, right?
Right, right.
And so I went back and I looked at it, and yesterday in my last meeting of the day, I said, oh, I've used up the whole book. And I thought, that's so cool. Yay!
Yes,
Because I don't
yes,
have to start a new one because
yeah.
today is my last day of actual work with my teams. I of course will be working over the weekend, but with my team. So my reflections about that are here. And I love what you're saying too, because for me, I've been able to overcome some stressors, some things once I write them down because they're in my peekaboo, what I call my peekaboo moments, which is my child, my inner
Yeah,
child. Um, Sometimes I hear things that aren't true.
yeah, yes.
And I have conversations in my head. I have a dear friend, and he said to me once, so was I there when you had that conversation? And I was like, oh no, maybe you weren't. So when you're working and helping people to reclaim their life, and I'm not going to say working, but when you're serving and helping people to reclaim their life, what do you feel? And I think you've kind of talked about it a little bit, but well, how does it make you feel when
Yeah.
you help a parent, a child, a community look at things differently?
So I'll answer that in just a second, but I don't want to get off the topic of journaling because there's one other thing that I
Good.
really want your audience to hear. And if they don't want to journal, okay, so be it. But I will tell you the thing that science has proven is that if you every single day write 3 things down that you are grateful for, 3 things, but they have to be specific, that it changes your brain to where you're looking for positive things in your life. It doesn't mean that you are like a fake positive person. It
Right.
means your filter of the world is going to change to where you're seeing positive things in life. So my request to them is if you're not going to journal, so be it, but every single day for 2024, write down 3 things that you are grateful for, specific things like a phone call to my daughter or a smile on the cashier's face when I said hello, or whatever it is. It needs to be very specific. Do that, and I promise you, this time next year, you will be a different person.
I love
That,
that.
yeah.
So
The,
Dr. Maureen, I'm gonna call her Dr.
I know.
Maureen now. Dr. Say
That is the
Maureen.
prescription, right?
That is the
Three things.
prescription.
Yeah. But and it goes to kind of answer what your question was, like, how does it make me feel? Like it uh, I will tell you, when I see a light bulb go on in somebody's mind that I've been working with, or seen the impact that I have made in their life, like it just feels warm. And that's the best way to describe it. And, and it fills my cup so that I want to do more and serve more. And I you know, teach families about asking for help,
Yeah,
because asking for help is very challenging to some people. I had a tough time with it when my daughter was sick, because I felt like the thing I have always dreamed of is being a mom. And if I ask for help, it means I'm failing as a mom because I can't handle what life is giving me. And it's so not true that, but it's the belief I had, my past self had. I don't have that belief anymore. But if you look at asking for help
yeah,
as a gift that you are giving to others, because it allows another person to serve you, which then fills their cup.
yeah.
So, having them miss out on that opportunity to be able to help you is such a sad state of affairs, that allow them into your world so that you're able to fill their cup.
Yeah. And that's the warm. That's the
Yeah,
warm you're talking
yeah,
about, is that when you allow someone to do what somebody, a good friend of mine said to me, because I was that person that didn't ask for help. She said, "You're always blocking my blessings." And I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
oh, that's a good
Yeah,
term.
she's
I
like,
like that.
"I
Yeah,
can't be blessed unless I bless you with
yeah,
whatever she was trying to help me with." And I've always remembered that, and I'm trying. I mean, those old tapes play every once in a blue moon, but I'm trying to live into this wonderful. I love the time. Like I'm reclaiming life. This is so cool.
yeah,
Because that's how I feel about it. And when
yeah,
you talk about reclaiming life, a guide for parents of chronically ill children, as we've been talking with Dr. Maureen Michele, that it is about not just parenting, but being a care partner, caregiver, whether you're a paid caregiver or unpaid in a family or a chosen family, a wonderful title. Two words that are coming together in the new paradigm of family, chosen
yeah,
family. And I love the questions that that want to learn how to overcome challenges, want to be inspired, want to live, to thrive. And so read Reclaiming Life, a guide for parents of chronically ill children. So again, we get caught up. I can't read this, I can't do that, it doesn't apply to me. Everything in life applies to us.
hmm,
That's the one thing that I have learned, that now that I'm living into this wonderful season of 60 something, I realize that everything that you do, everything that you read, everything that you say, hear, all of it impacts your life.
right. Yeah. The and a big thing to realize is that circumstances that we have in our life are not good or bad.
Yeah.
They're just neutral, like they're just things that are happening.
Mhm.
It's our mind that is labeling it as good or bad. And so understanding your own thoughts is really important, because the things that we think and that our brain offers us goes on to create emotions and feelings. Those emotions and feelings are impacting our actions in life, and those actions are giving us the results that we have in our lives. So if we want different results in our life, then understanding and being aware of our thoughts is so important, because we can pick and choose what thoughts go on in our mind and what we believe. And understanding that can create the emotions that we need to generate the actions
Right.
to switch our results in life.
and 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 it's not woo woo. It's not all this, stuff
No.
that people. This is the real science around it, because it is emotional intelligence. It's a We now study that
Yeah.
topic, and emotional intelligence just means, folks, that you're coming out of that space where you're reacting and being reactionary to a space where you're like, why do I feel that way? Just like
Yeah.
the other day, I
Right.
had a moment, and
Right.
I, instead of the person that made me feel the moment, blaming them for the moment, I thought, why do I feel this way? Why
Yeah.
is this person able to push this button in me? And what is it about me
Yeah.
that I need to work on? Because the person is a temporary.
Yeah. Yeah. But so bravo to you for being able to do that. The I will tell you that it takes practice to do
Yes.
that. And so some people hear me talk about this, or somebody from your audience is hearing you say that, and they're like, that can't happen. That yes, it can, but you have to want to get to that point.
Yeah.
And getting to that point means you first need to start by doing things like journaling, where you're just journaling thoughts, random thoughts that are in your mind, and you're kind of brain dumping on a piece of paper. Once you're able to really see those thoughts on paper, then get curious about them, just like what you said, that why am I feeling this way? Like, why did this trigger me? Like, what is it? And when you're curious, then you can understand what's really going on in your mind, because the mind is a powerful tool. Um, and then you have the ability to change it. And but it's not going to happen overnight.
Oh no.
It takes time to get to that point where you can say, okay, I just need to not react right now. Let me take a breath, and what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way, etc. The the other thing that I thought of, you said something at the beginning, and but it plays into this too, is folks often say, well, Maureen, you're telling me that I'm a parent of a sick kid and I shouldn't feel fear or guilt or overwhelm. And I'm like, no, 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 no. That's not what I'm saying. I would be worried about you if you didn't feel those emotions. Um, the thing that is important for you to understand is those emotions don't need to lead you through life. They can be there, but they don't need to be the emotions that are driving your actions. So you don't need to be completely overwhelmed with guilt where you're constantly focused on the person you're caring for and you forget about yourself. That's kind of an example of it. That, on this journey in life, we don't need to have guilt and fear and overwhelm be driving our car through the journey in life. Take those emotions and put them in the trunk of the car and bring them along on the journey. They don't need to be in the driver's seat, though. And that's what I'm talking about when we talk about this practice of getting there to understand your thoughts and emotions, because it's really going to change putting you back into the driver's seat.
I love that. And you know what you can do out there, my family, my friends, my siblings on this journey? You can book an appointment with this wonderful person who has discovered through her life practices, also being a servant through the medical field and being a life coach, bringing those things together. And if you need support or someone to walk with you, I'm a big advocate for counseling, for life coach, for mentors, for people to walk with you. I have an accountability partner that keeps me accountable for my dreams and visions and missions and all of those things. But it also means you have to trust. You have to trust and reach out to a person to share those things. Think of your life. I was thinking as you were speaking, Maureen, that it's a quest. Think of it
Mm-hmm.
as a quest. There's something that is going to be filled with, and this is the kid in me. This is this is the little girl in me. That it's a quest,
Yeah.
and
And yeah,
enjoy some of it and be in awe of it. That's where those questions come from. Not even sometimes questions that have answers. They don't always have to have answers, but that they're coming out of you in a way that they're giving you that aha.
yeah,
And I thank you for clarifying and qualifying. It's taken me 2 decades of my life focus. I mean, like focus driven
yeah.
mission to fix what had happened prior to.
Yeah.
Um,
It,
so
it's work. It's work on yourself, but it is well worth it.
yeah,
And a lot of folks, when they come to me, they say, "I just want to be happy." And my thing back is, no, that's not what you want out of life. Because if life were only roses and unicorns and we knew nothing else, that it would be incredibly boring.
would be
Um, and what we really want in life is to fully experience and really create the life that we want. Um, and be fully present in it. And that means feeling all the good emotions and feeling all the negative emotions, but picking and choosing how we're going to react and experience them is super important and is really what we're trying to work for in life.
exactly because I'm always saying, it's okay to to feel grief,
Yeah.
and to live in the moments of those things because to ignore them and act as if you have no feelings that's a sci-fi movie. That's not.
Well, it's problematic when you do, because it's like taking a beach ball and holding it underwater. That eventually you're going to let that beach ball go and it's going to fly up in the air. Our emotions are the same. If we squash them down and don't process them at an inopportune time, they're going to come flying out in dramatic ways sometimes, and a time when we don't want it to be there. So processing it in the moment is a healthier version of yourself.
Yes, and that's the pop. I call that in my head.
Yeah.
That's my pop. and
Yep.
with no regard, and then it feels yucky. It's
Hmm.
not good for your.
Right.
So
Right.
I don't have the book, but I'm going to show you this, guys. Reclaiming Life. Please
Yes.
go and get that book. And it's still enough time to buy a book and give it to another person. I always say when I buy books, I buy two. One for myself because I write in them as I am reading them normally, and then the other to give away. So
Yeah.
I leave one in my car so that when that one person comes along and I never know who that person, I'm like, I got something for you. So do
Yes.
that. That's a fun way to serve the other people. And sometimes they're strangers. I always go, can I give you something? I have a book and they go, yeah, nobody has ever refused taking a
Right.
book from me. So
Yeah.
Reclaiming Life, a guide for parents of chronically ill children, Maureen Michele. You can go to her website. It's a beautiful website. It has a pull down button where you can, in fact, make an appointment and have contact with her. It's team at maureenmichelemd.com. She has a newsletter that you can sign up for. The contact phone number, if you remember, I always tell you, bring a paper, a pad, pencil, 240-998-8668. So I just want to thank you for spending your morning with us here at Life is a Sacred Journey. I know all of the folks that join us on our platform gleaned a lot from this. And stay with us for a few minutes. I will close us out, but Happy New Year to you,
Oh,
and
Happy New
Happy
Year.
New Year to
Yes.
everything that you're embarking upon. And what are your last kind of moments last statements that you will give folks in this last moment that we have to take into the new year?
So I just want to say thank you to you and your work. And what a great way to close out 2023, sitting here having this conversation. And the last thing I want your listeners to hear, especially because I know if your listeners are facing a challenge, like this time of year is a tough time of year. But as we close out this year, just know wherever you are in your journey on this challenge, it's going to be okay. That believing that can allow you to really take the courageous action to make a difference in the next year. And by doing that first step. It'll be a scary one, and but it'll be an important step to get you onto the right path and through the challenge that you are facing. So I appreciate being here. MaureenMicheleMD.com is my website. Michelle is spelt with one L. And I hope that everyone has an awesome 2024.
Yes, and please, please reach out and get the book, Reclaiming Life, a guide for parents of chronically ill children. Maureen Michele, Michele, MD. And we always in our podcasts or whatever they call these things, I don't really get caught up in all that. But there are those, as Dr. Maureen Michele just said, as our new BFF for Life is a Sacred Journey and on this journey of mindfulness and all. If you are feeling the blues and you are feeling so sad that you're contemplating taking your life, don't do it. Find a phone, find somebody that will get you through to 988. That suicide hotline number is majorly important to your next second, your next moment, your next thought, your next everything. No matter what's happening, and as I have disclosed to many of you, I've been there. I've been to the dark side. I've been there. And I know how it feels to feel not seen, not heard, like the world would be better off without me. But I'm here to tell you, it won't be. And as Dr. Maureen said, there is hope on the other side. You just need to get to the right people who help you and will give you resources and help you get those resources and hold your hand and walk beside you. And that number is 988. Here in California, we also have the opportunity to have a youth crisis hotline. And you know how I feel about young people, youth. All of you. It's a 24/7 crisis counseling hotline. It's 1-800-843-5200. You can call, text, and chat up these folks here. They will help you if you're an emancipated youth, a foster youth, and you're living on the street. You are not alone. You are loved. Life is a Sacred Journey loves you. I love you. Dr. Maureen loves you. And we know that you didn't get there on your own. Something happened. Somebody failed you. So dial 1-800-843-5200 and get the help that you need, the resources that you need so you can be safe and not be victimized by the street. Okay? All right. All right, good people. You know how I end this. Dr. Maureen, thank you so much for coming to Life is a Sacred Journey. And what I tell people as we close, go out. If you're not allergic to cats like me, pet a cat. I am a dog person, so I love my dogs. So I pet my dog, hug my dog. But my favorite thing in the whole wide world, the biggest creation that I love the most, that I hug every day, is a tree, you guys. Wrap your arm around a tree. Don't let go. Close your eyes and hug it as if it is a living creature, being, because it is. And let go. Sigh, breathe, yell, do whatever you need to do. And pushing on the tree will help you push out that yell, because sometimes you do need to do that. Take that into 2024, and we'll see you again next Friday, right after you celebrate. Don't celebrate too much that you regret it the next day, because it's not good for your body either. But hug yourself. Don't worry about it if you're by yourself. Hug yourself. And you know what? Remember when we were kids, Dr. Maureen? I don't know if you did this, but I know I did. And we were practicing kissing. Okay, and we would kiss our, right? Do that to yourself and then have a giggle about it, because you know what? It's not that serious. It really isn't. Enjoy your life. Enjoy yourself. All right. Have a good weekend. We'll see you next Friday. And happy New Year, friends. Happy New Year. Thank you for being here every Friday morning. Be well.